Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here, and in this video I'm going to show you the top 15 best decks after the Paladin nerfs. This time looking for the best decks has been a little bit different than usual. This video is also a little bit delayed compared to usual, because Aegis Replay still has not released a filter that would show only post-patch data. So without that kind of filter, I can filter in the decks view and the meta view with the last 3 days filter, which I have now used. So that will give me the up-to-date information on what decks are good now that enough time has passed. But I cannot check the mulligan performance, the drawn win rate performance. There's still a bunch of stuff that I can't get really accurate data on. Also, looking into matchups is a little bit more difficult because I can't look into deck-specific matchups, only archetype-specific matchups. So, yeah, a little bit of difficulty in collecting the data, but I think I have got it. So, let's take a look at what has happened since Paladin was nerfed. First of all, we have some new decks in the meta, like Arcane Hunter. Arcane Hunter looks promising. The sample size is still very, very small. That's why I've rated it as number 15, because I think this could be something, but I just don't have the sample size to actually say for sure. Also, like, where is it going to rank? But Arcane Hunter, using the arcane spells, including Star Power, using Ancient Kraken Bane and stuff, Haldrang Brightwing. So, Face Hunter-ish, but a little bit more spell-oriented. Really fun new archetype that is finally maybe reaching viability. And at number 14 we have Blood Death Knight. Blood Death Knight has been the fan favorite for a very long time. People still love playing Blood Death Knight, at least some people do, and others just hate facing it. But Blood Death Knight has suffered in this new meta, this post-pure Paladin meta, because decks like Hound Hunter and Enrage Warrior and Thaddius Druid, there's a bunch of up-and-coming decks that are terrible matchups for Blood Death Knight. So Blood Death Knight is actually not doing too great. I struggle to recommend this for climbing, even though it is still somewhat over 50%, but there are just so many better options for this specific meta. At number 13 we have the first Demon Hunter deck, the Outcast Demon Hunter. As you can see, there is no Lady Steno here. Lady Steno has been dropped like a bad habit. No Demon Hunter decks run Lady Steno anymore. Spell Demon Hunter seems to have finally died again. I mean, it was resurrected by the miniset and then killed again. And the Steno-less Outcast Demon Hunter, the Steno finally got Outcast Demon Hunter to change the deck list, because the deck list has been the same since like the beginning of the expansion. But now the Steno-less Outcast Demon Hunter, it's still viable. I mean, it just keeps rolling on. And at number 12 we finally have something familiar looking with Big Demon Hunter, which has not changed by a single card. Big Demon Hunter, there was a preemptive nerfed Fellscale Evoker in the previous balance patch, because it looked like Big Demon Hunter could be too strong, and I mean that nerf worked. Big Demon Hunter is playable. It's not absolutely one of the best decks, but you can climb with this deck and have some fun. At number 11 we have another newcomer. This is a pretty exciting one, because this one is Secret Mage. Yes, Secret Mage in Standard. A little bit different than Secret Mage in Wild, obviously, because this is basically sort of like a hybrid between Spooky Mage and Burn Mage and Secret Mage. It has a little bit of everything. It has Egwene, it has Vexallus, it has ways to create Arcane Bolts, it also has Deathborn, and it has Nightclaw Sanctum. It can create some of those Skellies. And then of course it has some Mage secrets and stuff like Orion. A really interesting newcomer, and one that looks like it's doing quite alright. And at number 10 we have Undead Priest, and Undead Priest has finally embraced POSIX Audio Engineer. POSIX Audio Engineer, well, as Blizzard described it, it was underplayed compared to what its performance level was. And yeah, like, it's nerfed now, and still the best Undead Priest list is the one that runs the nerfed POSIX. That's just how strong POSIX is. And Undead Priest still a viable archetype as well. At number 9 we have another newcomer, and that newcomer is Evolve Shaman. Yeah, what can I say about Evolve Shaman? It does random stuff and then you die sometimes. And it also now has Horn of the Windlord, so it can also bonk you in the face. One archetype that I hoped would not have made a comeback, but somehow, I don't even know how, but somehow it just came back again. Number 8 is another familiar face. It's Frost Death Knight, and Frost Death Knight has not changed by a single card. If you have just not heard any news about any balance patches or anything for the past month or two, then if you happen to be a Frost Death Knight player, you can just carry on where you left off. No need to change any cards. Although maybe you were not running Hardcore Cultist is a useful addition to Frost Death Knight. It's the newest card that is included in this list, and Frost Death Knight, just a strong deck. The development of Druid has been interesting to watch. I mean, it's always some kind of ramp Druid, but we had the Zog Druid, and then we had the big Druid with Neptulon, and now the latest and greatest ramp and big Druid deck is Thaddius Druid. So there's Mismatch Moshers, there's Flesh Behemoths, there's Thaddius, there's Jailer, there's some fun stuff in ETC Spend, including Tony, King of Pirates, so you can also play this like a Tony Druid if the matchup comes up. There's Atoniat Maw, and there is Fanboy, so there's some synergy with that Mishmash Mosher, various ways to make it work. There's 2 copies of Doomkin in this list, although the list might be better with 0 copies of Doomkin. Doomkin is not doing well, it's clearly the worst card in this deck. But this ramp Druid like it has not been before in this expansion, because it still is polarized. It still has its strong matchups against a little bit slower decks and weak matchups against the very aggressive decks, but it's a little bit less polarized. We're talking 40-60 when you meet something like a pure Paladin, whereas some of the other big Druid decks are like 30-70 or something when they meet these aggressive decks. So even though you're unfavored, you have a bit more of a chance with Thaddius Druid, and that just makes it the superior alternative, and that means that it has completely replaced Big Druid in the meta. Despite the latest Steno nerf, Demon Hunter is still out there in force. We have already seen Big Demon Hunter, we have seen Outcast Demon Hunter, and the best Demon Hunter archetype at the moment is Relic Demon Hunter. So Demon Hunter still has 3 viable archetypes, even though Lady Steno was nerfed, and consequently Lady Steno was cut from all of these decks, and they just had to replace her. And yeah, Relic Demon Hunter, the Enchanter version, seems to be the best one. Make those enemy minions take double damage, and boom. The mini set brought Warrior back into the meta, thanks to basically one card really, it's Jam Session. Jam Session just goes so incredibly well into Enrage Warrior. Give a buff to your minion, damage everything else, so you can activate all sorts of Enrage synergies. And Enrage Warrior, it is actually a little bit weaker now that it was immediately after the mini set. That's because of the way the meta has functioned. But Enrage Warrior is still one of the top tier decks right now, and it has just become a staple in the meta, so Warrior is definitely back. Control Warrior is not back. Control Warrior, like riff rock and roll, yeah, it hurts, it's so bad. But Enrage Warrior doing well. Death Knight is also still around with all of its archetypes. We saw Blood, we saw Frost, and right now, in this meta, the strongest Death Knight deck is Unholy Death Knight. One curious thing about Unholy Death Knight is that the pure Paladin nerfs did affect this matchup. Unholy Death Knight now became favored against pure Paladin, which it was not before. And Unholy Death Knight has found its way with a Magatha Bane of Music list, so you will have some extra card draw focusing on those minions. Sylvanas, of course, Posig. It's just really swarmy, really strong deck. And one of the biggest winners of the balance patch was Totem Shaman. Totem Shaman was doing fine already. It got something out of the mini set because it got Magatha, Bane of Music, and it got Backstage Bouncer. And now with pure Paladin nerf, Totem Shaman has much more room to shine, and it's doing incredibly well. However, despite getting nerfed, pure Paladin is not bad. I mean, the deck was nerfed 3 times. Disco Mall, the Purator, Feast and Famine, 3 nerfs, and the deck is still absolutely top tier deck, one of the best decks in the game. You want to play these more aggressive variants that run both Feast and Famine and 4 Quel'Thalas. and ones that run double Horn of the Windlord, of course, Anachronos, Countess. This aggressive style, not the hand buff style. This is the type of pure paladin that you want to play nowadays, and it is doing really well. So, okay, you can ask, okay, did the nerfs do anything? Hey, pure paladin is still top tier. Yes, pure paladin is still top tier, but it used to be top tier alone. And now there's several other decks that can contest it. Let's just look at the weakness list. Totem Shaman, Unholy Death Knight, Outcast Demon Hunter, Frost Death Knight. It used to be Spell Demon Hunter, the only weakness. Pure Paladin has more weaknesses now. It's still great, but you can also beat it if you want to. Or if you were playing Pure Paladin, you can just like, hey, okay, I got nerfed, so what, I'd still play this. But we do have a new best deck in town, and that best deck is Hound Hunter. Hound Hunter has a bunch of really good matchups, then it has a lot of slightly favored matchups, and it only has one big weakness. And that one big weakness is Thaddius Druid. So Druid is right now playing, ironically, an important part in keeping Hound Hunter in check. But Hound Hunter, I mean, not only is it strong, it's also a really fun archetype. And to add to the fun, I'm actually giving two lists for Hound Hunter, because Hound Hunter currently sees play in a 30 card version and in a 40 card version. These best lists are still resembling each other. Both of them run stuff like Costumed Singer, for example. Both have a small secret package to them. More new stuff from the mini set. Wonderful that they see play. Hollow Hounds, of course, are there. Star Powers there. And imagine that the balance patch also nerfed Hound Hunter actually, because it nerfed Hope of Quel'Thalas, which used to be by far the best card in this list. And Hope of Quel'Thalas nerf was rather mild, and as you can see from the performance of Hound Hunter right now, it was absolutely warranted. Maybe they should have done a little bit more for Hound Hunter, because I definitely see the risk that Hound Hunter is going to become too strong. On the other hand, it has a lot of matchups that are like 52, 40, 80-ish, so those matchups maybe are not so crushing that Hound Hunter would be unbeatable. And it does have that one weakness, but one weakness that's always just a little. Well, we'll see how the meta is going to develop, but right now Hound Hunter, the best deck in the game, but there's plenty of alternatives. This is a fairly wide open meta. There's plenty of decks that you can play and succeed with and climb the ladder even all the way to legend. Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and a special thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, YouTube members and Twitch subscribers who make all of these videos possible.